All right, welcome to today's Lunch and Learn webinar, Document Management Solutions for Dynamics NAV, How to Become Paperless and Achieve a Fast ROI, brought to you by ArcherPoint and Equisys. Companies are drowning in paper and paper-related costs. Recent studies have shown that hundreds of millions of dollars a week and tens of billions of dollars a year are wasted looking for paper-based information. Equisys has created a solution, the Zetadocs suite of add-ons for Dynamics NAV, to help reduce these costs. Zetadocs streamline business processes, freeing you from paper and improving the way your business operates. Finance departments, customer service, sales, and operational teams can work more efficiently on screen, saving time and costs while offering better service levels to customers, suppliers, and staff. We're pleased to have Sandra Cummins with us today, currently a channel account manager with Equisys. Sandra's background includes building effective relationships with customers and clients from industries that include enterprise software, education, logistics, environmental services, manufacturing, and distribution. By working closely with a diverse account base throughout US and Canada, Sandra brings detailed knowledge and enthusiasm to learning about her customers' document management needs. Sandra holds a Bachelor of Science in Business from Georgia State University. We're also happy to have Mitch Brown, Director of Sales for Equisys. Mitch has spent the last 17 years working with organizations throughout North America to help streamline document-based processes with a special focus on the needs of the Dynamics NAV community. In today's webinar, Mitch will demonstrate the uses and benefits of Zetadocs' electronic document management system and workflow solution. He'll explain how to go paperless to save money, improve efficiency, and realize a fast ROI. But first, Sandra's going to introduce you to the problems with paper. Let's get started. Sandra, over to you.
Thank you, Suzanne. I'd like to thank you and ArcherPoint for the opportunity to present document management solutions to the attendees on our call today, and like to thank everyone on the call for joining our discussion on how to go paperless. My name is Sandra Cummins, and I am the account manager at Equisys. And as Suzanne had explained, joining us is also Equisys Sales Director, Mitch Brown.
Hello, everyone.
Today I'm going to discuss some of the challenges we hear from customers like you that are using paper-based systems. And we'll talk about the benefits they realized when switching to an electronic document management system. You will learn how to move beyond paper and inefficient filing systems while quickly recovering from your investment. Please note that we have included a few poll questions that will pop up throughout our presentation, and we appreciate your feedback. Simply post your answers in the question pane within the Go to Meeting screen. Our agenda includes starting with an introduction to Equisys and the history of Zetadocs, and then move into the discussion of the costs and frustrations of paper-based processes and how document management solutions can be used to increase efficiency and customer response times while also reducing your costs. We will follow with an overview of how document management solutions work within NAV, and then close with a summary, including time for a few questions. To give you a little background of our company, Equisys was founded 30 years ago. Our history of leadership in the document management, delivery, and approval space started with our fax solution. Business owners we talked to were experiencing several challenges when they attempted to become paperless and initially needed a network fax solution. We developed ZetaFax, followed by Zetadocs for NAV. In 2007, we entered into an agreement with Microsoft to develop a document management software that integrates directly into NAV. Microsoft chose to work with us as there was a growing need of companies looking for software that could provide solutions to help with the challenge of sending out a large volume of invoices. From there, Zetadocs delivered a delivery software, and then added additional functionality. Zetadocs was one of the first NAV add-ons to achieve certified for Microsoft Dynamics accreditation. And as part of our partnership with Microsoft, we strive for and earn certification every year. Similar to most organizations that use NAV, we also had a reliance on paper before we designed our software with NAV users like you in mind. And hopefully this all demonstrates our credentials within this field. So to kick things off, I'd like to ask everyone to take a moment and think about the volume of paper your team processes every day. Is the paper within your organization on top of your finance team? Or is your finance team on top of paper? When companies initially start researching a document management solution, it is often because they are facing challenges, like the picture of the gentleman on the screen looking at the overwhelming stack of paper on his desk. Documentation such as customer POs and vendor invoices all need to be stored. The process of filing and retrieving these paper documents is slow and laborious, and it can lead to hours spent individually filing important documents with the hopes that someone can retrieve those documents at a later date. Think about the amount of space you are using to store paper documents. Oftentimes, companies are faced with the decision to either rent additional storage space or utilize valuable office space. In fact, some companies we have spoken with spend over $30,000 a year in off-site storage fees. How much storage space are you using in your office? So here's our first poll question. How do you currently store paper documents? On-site file cabinets, off-site storage, combination of both, network folders, all of the above? When you think about it, there's many different places that important supporting documents need to be stored throughout your company. And we'll just give it a few more seconds on our question pane.
It looks like as the responses are coming in, and thank you for your responses, we're about 30% all of the above, about 25% network folders, but the majority, 38% or more, on-site file cabinets, and then a smaller percentage that does on-site and off-site. So with that, we'll go ahead and close our poll.
Thank you, Suzanne. As you can see, paper-based processes is still a central means of storing documents in most companies. So to expand on that picture with the stack of paper, here is some other information that you may not be aware of. The average office worker uses 10,000 sheets of paper per year, and it is estimated that 68% of these are wasted. Reasons for wasted paper include printing documents unnecessarily, printing several copies of the same document to be filed in multiple areas, and also misplacing printed documents. According to a study by EDM Group, the average employee wastes 1.5 hours per week looking for documents and information that has been misplaced or lost at work. This equates to hundreds of millions of dollars a week. Think about how much time your staff wastes every week looking for supporting information in a file cabinet or in a network folder. Is it more than 1.5 hours? What about the other people in your company? How much is this costing you? Then, when employees can't find what they are looking for, 1 in 5 end up recreating those documents again. This all demonstrates that it is not simply the cost of purchasing paper and toner, but the time and money that is wasted through the use of inefficient filing systems that affect your team's productivity. So here's a second series of questions. How much time does your staff spend each week looking for supporting information and recreating documents? 30 minutes, an hour and a half, 2 hours or more? As you can see, it adds up when you take a few minutes to think about it. And we'll give it another second and then close the pane.
Once again, thank you everyone for your responses. Looks like we have about 60% that have voted. So the responses are, well, very few that say 30 minutes. 20% are 2 hours or more, 30% are at 1.5 hours, and 30% at an hour. Once
Okay.
again, thanks everyone for your responses.
Yes, thank you. So to help illustrate the challenges of an inefficient storage system, I am going to run through a typical workflow, one I am sure you are all familiar with, the purchase to pay process. And as I run through this workflow, you can see how those hours add up. Every organization has its own unique requirements. So as we walk through the purchase process over the next few slides, some of the steps may not apply to your workflow, but you'll get the idea. And as I'm going through, think about how you are storing these files within your company. A purchase order cycle usually starts with a quote request that eventually will lead to a payment. Through the process, several documents are often exchanged. For example, purchase orders, purchase receipts, and invoices, just to name a few. When we are talking with customers, these are the most common documents being passed back and forth around the office. Throughout the workflow, email communication and attached documents all need to be stored in a way that they can be retrieved at a later date. Now, if you switch over to the sales side, notice how many of these documents will also need to be captured to assist your sales reps as they communicate with your customers. Now think about other documents that finance uses and perhaps other departments use. Now let's take a deeper look at an example of a paper-based purchase order process. A request for some good or service is received by the purchasing team, who then contact a vendor or vendors in order to receive a proposal. Once the proposals are received, a copy of the proposal is typically filed in one or possibly more filing cabinets or network folders. Once approved, a purchase order will be sent to the vendor, which once again will need to be filed along with the quote. The vendor may send an order confirmation notice, which means another trip to the filing cabinet or network folder, and eventually your order will ship and be received within the warehouse. The packing slip and vendor invoice documents will all need to be stored with the other relevant information that had been received. As you can see from all the arrows going in different directions, there are many steps in the process. Your organization may not go through all of these steps, but it is easy to see how a paper-based system is costly, time-consuming. When your staff is required to make several trips to one or more filing cabinets, delays in accessing this information can lead to issues with customer or vendor service, such as poor response times. And I know that is something that no business wants. And finally, a paper-based system is unsecure. Documents can get lost or misfiled. Now that all the documents have been received, one or more members of your staff will make multiple trips to multiple locations to store the supporting documents. So we're going to launch another poll. And on average, how many sales and purchasing documents do you store per transaction? 5, 10, 15, 20 or more? They add up when you start to think about it. And we'll give it a few more seconds for you to put your answers in on the question pane.
I'll keep those answers coming in. Right now we're looking at Half of our audience has voted between 5 and 10. The majority say it's about 75% of those say 5. 25% say 10 documents per transaction on average.
Great. Thank you, Suzanne, and thank you for your answers. So how does an electronic document management system change this process? Electronic document management can streamline your purchase order cycle by making sure everyone can easily store files against the relevant transaction within NAV so that they are instantly accessible on screen. This can strengthen vendor relationships by giving users immediate access to the information when they need to answer a customer or vendor call. This can be especially useful during an audit and helps your team focus on interacting with customers and enhancing those user experiences so that your customers keep coming back. A good document management solution will reduce the cost of each transaction because less physical space is required to store files and no paper and toner is used throughout the process. When your business can automate aspects of the operations that tend to be time-consuming, like invoicing, billing, and payments, you'll be able to focus on other tasks that are very important to your business. Automation is one of the most beneficial aspects of the online world and provides you with a way to secure important documents from theft or disasters, such as fire or floods. So on the screen, we're going to take a look at the same purchase process we just reviewed, this time where a document management system has been deployed. The request for purchase is received by the finance team. That information is then sent to a vendor who will provide a quote that will be entered into NAV as a purchase order. The relevant quote can easily be stored against the PO. A purchase order will then be sent to the winning vendor, and this email will automatically be archived electronically against the PO. Later, the order confirmation, packing slip, and invoice all arrive from your supplier, and all of these documents can now be stored electronically against the relevant transaction within NAV. Throughout this process, if there is ever a question regarding a transaction, all the supporting information will be directly accessible from within NAV. As you can see, all the supporting documents to the transaction are stored in one place, requiring only one member of your staff to store these documents. In looking at a few of the typical scenarios where a document management system is most beneficial, we're looking at sales and purchasing, but also keep in mind that a good document management solution can be used in other areas of NAV as well. For electronic invoicing, generating, sending, and filing invoices becomes a faster and more efficient process using a document management solution. Invoices for any number of clients can be produced and delivered automatically in batches at predetermined times. Invoice templates can be predefined, populated with the appropriate customer data, and personalized for each customer. Once sent by email or fax, each invoice is then automatically indexed and archived alongside the other documentation related to the client or transaction. Before we move into the demo, we wanted to give you some tips of things to consider when investigating a document management solution. These tips are based on conversations with our customers over the years. Starting with file structure, how is your system storing files? Is it just storing out to a drive with a tag that goes back to the transaction? Or is it grouping all supporting documents for a customer into one folder that you can easily access? When looking at a solution, you want to look for something that is accessible, something where people can easily find a document. Search. Do you have to go search in another area? With some document management solutions, you have to go out of NAV. And does the document management software you are considering integrate with the solution that you are using? Is it easy to store and retrieve? This is possibly the most important of all of these. If it's not easy for your users, they will not adopt the solution. You don't want to invest in software that is not going to be fully utilized. Can your finance and sales team access the system from their home office? And for your sales team, if they are at a customer site, can they pull up supporting files to answer a customer question? Oftentimes when companies reach out to us, they are looking to solve a specific issue, such as supplier invoice processing. But you want to make sure that the system you are considering will work for both accounts payable and accounts receivable, and take a holistic view of your ERP system. Do you need a system that will handle the delivery of invoices, scan and store incoming documents? And what about expenses? Whether you have 20 employees or 1,000, it can sometimes be difficult to keep security of information in check. Permissions are truly necessary in this regard, as they allow you to choose who has the ability to view, delete, or change files and documents, and who does not. The best document management systems allow administrators to set specific permissions for every employee, helping to keep control and protect important documents from being altered. I'm now going to pass this over to Mitch, who is going to show you how a document management system actually works.
All right, thank you, Sandra. Give me 1 second just to display my screen. All right, so in reviewing some of the responses to the poll questions that Sandra had asked earlier, notice that a lot of people are still using either network file folders or paper file cabinets to store information. And for several of you, you're spending anywhere from 1.5 hours to 2 hours each week to retrieve information. So what I plan to show you today is a solution that can dramatically streamline those processes and allow you to spend less time searching for paper and spend more time on important tasks within the organization. So for today's demonstration, for full disclosure, I am utilizing NAV 2017, and we're storing our documents out to a SharePoint site. With our document management offering, we do support SharePoint and archiving to a network folder as options for storage, just so you're aware. But I've put together a role of David Davies, who is a member of the customer service team. And David's received a call from one of our customers that has a question regarding an invoice that has been, or I should say, has a question regarding an order. They haven't received an invoice. So I'm actually going to go into NAV, into our posted sales invoices. And the customer that's calling us is Selangorian regarding the order that they just placed. So here you can see within NAV, we've got invoice 103035. Now, if the customer has any questions, David can easily answer them because he's got access to all the supporting documentation, as you can see on the right-hand side of your screen. So if there's a question regarding the sales order and the actual PO, I can simply, if I want, drill into the sales invoice itself and see the line item detail. And if I wanted to match that up against the purchase order that was sent from the customer, I don't have to search the network or go to a paper file cabinet. I can simply open up the email that was dragged and dropped when the purchase order arrived. So I can actually see the supporting information that I need in order to answer Selangorian's questions. Here we can see that 10 spokes were ordered, And if I actually go back into our invoice, we can see that, yes, that's exactly what we have. Well, Terry's mentioning that they didn't receive a copy of the invoice that we sent out. Well, once again, that information is going to be easily accessible at David's fingertips, where I can see, once again, within the document fact box that we have over on the right-hand side, a copy of the invoice was archived when it was sent out. And I can even go so far as to determine the time that it was sent. So this was actually sent on October 19th at 12:46. But no worries, I can actually resend that to Selangorian with just a couple clicks of a mouse. When I want to send out this invoice, with Zetadocs, I can click on the send button within the ribbon, and we're going to deliver this invoice out based on rules that have been set up within the customer card for Selangorian. So in this instance, we're going to be sending this out to Terry Main. We've got his email address and the template that we're going to overlay on top of the invoice, just so we've got terms and conditions and also a personalized covering email. So I'll go ahead and send this. Now, behind the scenes, an email is going to be sent out to Terry's attention. And let's actually go over to Outlook. And there you can see the invoice that we sent out. With Zetadocs, when we're sending it out, we personalize the body of the email. So it's not a generic message. We're personalizing it, saying, "Dear Terry, please find the attached invoice with the invoice number." We've got the invoice attached. Also, we've automatically attached terms and conditions of sale. So the process of sending out an invoice is one that has been streamlined, but it's also uniform. Your customers are going to receive invoices in a consistent way. Now, let's say a little bit later in the day, Terry sends back a message letting me know, or one of his colleagues sends back a message letting me know that a check has been cut. Obviously, I want to record this information against the invoice in case someone has a question later on. In order to do that, with our solution, users can simply take the email and archive it using a drag and drop feature. So you can simply take an email, drag it against the corresponding, in this case, invoice in the system, and now that information is going to be available for anyone as long as they have the appropriate rights within the system to view it. So hopefully so far we've been able to show you that with a proper document management solution that's integrated with NAV, it's going to dramatically reduce the time it takes for your users to find the information they need and also store the information that's relevant to transactions or, items that needs to be archived. Now, Sandra also mentioned, and this is something that we're hearing more and more from prospects when they reach out to us, is the fact that, or I should say NAV users, they're looking for solutions that can work the way their users work today. And what I mean by that is oftentimes you have users that are out in the field. Well, with a proper document management solution like Zetadocs, you want to have a solution that not only works when users are in the office, but also can support them when they're out, perhaps on the mobile client, phone client, or tablet client. In this case, I'm using the web client, and if one of your sales reps is out in the field and is about to go into a meeting with Selangorian, and they notice that this invoice is, let's say, past due, well, that user can actually go into the system from the web client and has access to all the supporting documentation that's been archived against this record. It's, once I refreshed it, you can see here, I've got a copy of the email that was sent out. So now before I go into my sales meeting, I know that the overdue invoice is actually set to be paid, and they've even given us a check number. So it's something that I don't really need to be concerned with when I'm meeting with Selangorian. So with Zetadocs, not only can you access information in sales purchasing, but the system also supports other areas of NAV as well. And one that we've heard, and this is actually on the finance side, is oftentimes finance team, and this is actually something that we've experienced personally, when sending out statements or reminder letters to customers, oftentimes, whether it's a delaying tactic or not, those customers will reach out to us requesting copies of the invoices associated with that statement or reminder. Well, with a proper document management solution, we can ensure that all supporting information that's needed to remove barriers of payment are sent with that invoice or reminder. So to highlight that, if I actually go into our reminder letters, and I'm going to go ahead and initiate the sending of all of our reminders. So I'm just going to actually go ahead and send all of them. Now, once again, the system's going to go through and process these, and based on rules that are set up in the system, determine for each company how they want each recipient to receive their reminder. If they want a hard copy, or typically most companies want to receive them by email. But also, as part of this process, when we're sending out these reminder letters, we're also grabbing copies of the associated invoices. So not only will customers be receiving the reminder letter, but all the supporting documentation they need in order to initiate payment. So now that we've processed this batch and sent those out, I want to hop over to email once again to show you an example of one that I sent out earlier. So here's an example of a reminder that we sent out with our system. I should mention, when you're sending out these reminders, copies of all this information will automatically be archived against the reminder within NAV automatically. But you can see we've got not only the reminder letter, but we've also attached copies of all of the overdue invoices, and we clearly identified in the covering email that this is the final reminder, so this account is extremely past due. When the hotel receives this information, they'll be able to actually open up the reminder letter, see all of the invoices that are included, and then once again, we've included copies of those invoices on the email itself, so the hotel has everything they need in order to initiate payment, as I mentioned before. Now, if there's ever an instance where maybe from this page we want to look up and see, a customer contract, just to see if there are any special pricing terms that may be preventing our customer from sending us payment, well, with Zetadocs or a proper document management solution, we can go in to a reminder, and let's say I want to see what information we've stored, if there are any customer contracts that have been stored on the customer card. Well, I can simply navigate from the issued reminder to the customer card, and then over on the right-hand side, it will display any information such as customer contracts or W-9s that have been stored relating to this particular customer in the system. And one thing Sandra also mentioned is, when looking at a document management solution, you want to make sure you're taking a holistic view. Most organizations that reach out to us initially are looking for a solution to handle challenges that relate to AR or AP. But with a proper document management solution, it will be able to help you store information against things like planned production orders. As you can see on your screen, once again, we've got the document fact box over on the right-hand side, so I can actually store information related to this planned production order. I can also store information against item cards or journal entries in the system. The goal of a properly implemented document management solution is going to be to make sure that your employees have access to the information they need no matter where they are, and that the system is easy to use in order to archive supporting information. And hopefully we've been able to show that to you today with our drag and drop feature and the ability to access information while on the road, in the office, and how we can also streamline the sending of supporting information as well. And with that, I'm going to pass things back over to Sandra.
Thank you, Mitch. As Mitch was going through the demo, there was several examples of how you can save documents into the appropriate NAV record and then also send invoices out, where you can really see the efficiency that's gained through using an electronic management solution, not only on the time-saving side, but also on the cost-saving. And when sending out delivery of invoices and reminder letters, you might also want to think about, how much sooner you'll receive those payments back from your vendors. So to move beyond the functionality of the system, let's look at some of the aspects to consider when researching a document management solution. On the screen here, we're showing some of the mistakes that you can avoid, starting with not clearly defining goals. When people start planning to implement a document management system, many haven't thought through what they want to accomplish, and that can increase your risk of choosing a less than ideal vendor. So it's a good idea to take the time to define a few basics, including which departments the system is primarily intended for, the document types your company handles, and the specific business processes you're aiming to improve. And make sure not to confuse basic document storage and document management. These terms sound similar, but mixing them up could lead to problems. Many organizations already have ways of storing their documents in a central place, whether it's on a company server or cloud-based storage space or file cabinets. But having everything stored in one place doesn't mean that your employees won't waste time searching for documents. With the right document management solution, it will include powerful indexing capabilities that store documents in a structured way. Having the possibility to find all documents relevant for one business process is really where you find the value. And don't forget about the user experience. When companies start looking at document management software, they may initially focus on the back end and the overall function and features, which is very natural. But you also want to ask, how well would this system work for our average user? Having the best functionality isn't worth much if half the people on your team can't figure out how to use it. So keep in mind that document management is a cross-platform application that everyone should be able to use. And to get the most out of your system, it needs to be usable for everybody, from accountants to salespeople to factory workers. Some of the other most common mistakes come from making decisions based on current requirements rather than thinking about your organization's long-term needs. A lot could change in your company, and your document management system should be robust and flexible enough to keep up with that evolution. When people lack a comprehensive understanding of what's possible, they tend to look for a solution to only the most obvious problems. Perhaps your company only has a pressing need right now for an efficient way to store and retrieve documents. But later on, you might also need to electronically send batches of invoices, only to discover that the software you chose doesn't have that capability. And also, be mindful of not overlooking the total cost of ownership. This mistake is common to a variety of IT projects. Look into the future and figure out what you'll spend on your current system compared to the time and cost savings of an electronic system in the bigger view. As with any investment, taking the long view is essential to making good choices. This screen shows examples of different types of documents to illustrate how a document management system can be used above and beyond common sales and purchasing documents. So for our next set of questions, think about in which areas would you use document management the most? Sales and purchasing, general ledger entries, item inventory cards, perhaps also rental and other contract documents. And we'll give it a few more seconds for you to put your answers in the question pane.
And once again, thank you for your responses. Looks like about half of our attendees have voted, with 50% or more saying sales and purchasing, 29% saying GL, and 14 on item and inventory cards.
Okay, thank you, Suzanne. And thank you to all who answered the questions. That is all something to consider when you move into the implementation side of the software that you choose. A properly planned system minimizes
And I think I lost Sandra, or maybe you guys lost me.
that way each rollout will benefit from the previous department's experience. And most importantly, test, test, and test again. We always recommend testing a document management solution within your test database before going live. Testing is often glossed over, but it's a great way to avoid surprises during the go live that could cause business disruptions at a client or system-wide level. You also want to make sure that your document management system is compatible with what you are currently using. On the screen here, we're showing that Zetadocs for NAV is compatible with several versions of NAV, 2009, role-tailored client, moving all the way up to 2017. Also, make sure that the tablet client, web client, and Windows client is supported. And on the archive side, look at where those documents are going to be securely archived. Zetadocs supports SharePoint Online, SharePoint On-Premise, and network folders. So what are the next steps? With Zetadocs, you can start with Zetadocs Express. Up to 4 users can drag and drop into NAV sales and purchasing records, and sent emails can go out one at a time. This allows your users to get comfortable with the basic functionality of the system and how it works. We've included on the screen the web address for Zetadocs Express, but you can also reach out to your ArcherPoint rep to ask questions about Express and the installation of Express. And then after using that, then you can determine how you would like to upgrade and where you would like to increase your functionality. And what is your return on investment? What are the numbers? How much could you be saving by going paperless? There is an ROI calculator available on our website. We show the link here, but if you would like a link to the calculator, feel free to reach out to your ArcherPoint rep and they can send you an email with the link. So do you think paper has had its day? It's time-consuming and costly and can cause issues with providing services to your vendors and customers, and can have a negative impact on virtually every business process. We hope that our presentation has given everyone ideas for areas in which document management solutions can help streamline your business. If you have any specific requirements that you would like to discuss, please contact your account manager at ArcherPoint. And to learn more about Zetadocs, there are short product videos on our website and on our YouTube channel. And also on our website, we list a calendar of upcoming webinars as well as links to recordings of past webinars. And so now we're going to open this up to additional question and answers.
Once again, if you have any questions you'd like to ask, please just put them in the questions pane. There's a little drop down next to questions in your GoToWebinar console. I do have a few that have come in through our chat pane. Giovanni wants to know the different methods of storing the docs are network and cloud. That's a question, asking if those are the different methods of storing the documents.
Regarding that question, with Zetadocs, we support a variety of archives. You can either use SharePoint, a network folder archive. For cloud storage, we do recommend SharePoint Online.
All right, hopefully that answers your question. Thank you so much for that. Next is, can approvals be handled for non-NAV users with Zetadocs?
To answer that question, yes, we do have a payables approval solution that allows non-NAV users to approve purchase orders and purchase invoices. That's a solution that works with our Capture products. So you would use Zetadocs Capture to store the supporting information. Then it can be routed through an approval process that non-NAV users would be able to access from a web interface.
Can you switch from one to the other? Example, network to SharePoint Cloud. So basically, how are the documents archived, and can you, I guess, maybe determine that based on what type of document it is, perhaps?
Typically, we suggest having one archive, so have it set to either network folders or SharePoint. In terms of if you're currently using Zetadocs and looking to migrate from a network folder archive to SharePoint Online or vice versa, what I would recommend in that instance is reaching out to your ArcherPoint representative or reach out to us so we can learn a little bit more about your current archive and your plans for migration, and then we can make some suggestions.
Did that answer your question, or are you interested in having documents stored in different places? And I'll let him answer that while I ask our next question. Can we use Zetadocs to improve our expense management process?
Yes, about a little over a year ago, we introduced the newest member to the Zetadocs family, which is an expense management solution. It's a cloud-based solution that users can enter expenses while on the go. They'll be routed through an approval process, and with our solution, we have integration with NAV. So once an expense is approved, it will automatically create a transaction within NAV with no rekeying of information.
Very nice, thank you. And lastly, or at least the last question I have right now is, my organization doesn't go through the full purchase order process. Can we still, that you described in this presentation, can we still benefit from a document management solution?
Suzanne, to answer that, yes, we feel that any organization can benefit from a document management solution. What I would request the user to think about is with their purchase process or sales process, where are areas that paper is causing a bottleneck, or where are areas where finding the supporting information you need is taking that 1.5 to 2 hours a week. Those are areas where a document management solution is really going to benefit organizations, is by ensuring that users have access to the information they need at their fingertips without having to go and search for it.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you, Mitch. I don't see any further questions at this time. So with that, I would like to thank our audience for joining us today. We hope you consider it time well spent with us, and we would do welcome your feedback and your questions post our event. Please simply email them to info@archerpoint.com. Again, that's info@archerpoint.com. Sandra and Mitch, thank you for your expertise in sharing that with the audience today. We thank everyone for their time. And with that, we conclude today's session. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, Susan.